Welcome to Breaking Wire. Please subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon for more updates. We live in a time of unprecedented economic uncertainty. The global economy feels like it's walking on a tightrope, and we're all holding our breath. But what if it falls? What happens when the next big crash hits? The impact won't be felt equally everywhere. Some states are built on stronger foundations, while others are dangerously fragile. When you peel back the layers, you see cracks in the foundations of individual states, cracks that could widen into chasms under the pressure of a downturn. As economic uncertainty looms, some U.S. states are more vulnerable than others. We'll examine the factors that put them at risk: debt, industry dependence, population trends, and fiscal policies. Here are the 10 states most at risk of collapse if the economy crashes. Our journey begins in Illinois. Beneath Chicago's skyline and fertile farmlands lies a financial crisis decades in the making: a massive public pension debt. Unfunded liabilities in the hundreds of billions threaten teachers, police, and public workers. To pay for it, taxes rise, driving businesses and residents out, shrinking the tax base even further. If a recession hits, tax revenues would plummet and the pension bomb could finally detonate, forcing devastating cuts to public services. Illinois' slow-motion collapse could become a free-fall. Next, New Jersey, a state with sky-high property taxes and chronic budget deficits. Years of overspending and borrowing have left the state with a massive pension crisis, second only to Illinois. High taxes drive out residents and businesses, eroding the tax base. In a crash, revenues would dry up, but obligations would remain. The state would face a brutal choice: raise taxes even higher or slash essential services. New Jersey is trapped, and a recession could spring the trap shut. California, fifth largest economy in the world, but built on volatility. The state relies heavily on Silicon Valley and capital gains taxes from the wealthy. When markets soar, so do revenues. When they crash, deficits explode. Meanwhile, sky-high living costs and a homelessness crisis strain the social fabric. A market crash would obliterate California's tax base, forcing deep cuts just as need surges. The gap between rich and poor would widen, fueling unrest. California's immense wealth is a fragile foundation. Connecticut, once a symbol of stability, now faces a quiet decline. Massive unfunded pension and healthcare liabilities force high taxes, driving out residents and businesses. The population shrinks, and major employers have left. The state relies on finance and insurance, industries hit hard in downturns. With little economic momentum, Connecticut would be caught in a fiscal straitjacket during a crash. Public services and quality of life would rapidly erode. Kentucky's legacy industries, especially coal, have collapsed, leaving high poverty and unemployment. The state's pension system is among the worst funded in the nation. A weak tax base and enormous liabilities make Kentucky financially fragile. In a recession, demand for aid would surge as revenues fall. The transition away from coal would stall, and vulnerable communities could unravel. Kentucky is already on the edge. A crash could push it over. Louisiana faces constant risk from hurricanes and environmental disasters. Each storm inflicts deep, lasting economic wounds, especially on oil, gas, and shipping. High poverty and low education rates leave many residents vulnerable. The state budget lurches from crisis to crisis. A recession paired with a bad hurricane season could overwhelm Louisiana, decimating revenues and sparking a humanitarian crisis. The state's resilience is tested every year, but a double disaster could break it. New York, home to Wall Street, hides deep vulnerabilities. Astronomical living costs and taxes drive out residents and businesses. The state relies on a small number of high earners for much of its revenue. A recession would hammer tax revenues and accelerate the exodus. Demand for social services would soar as the tax base shrinks. New York would face massive budget gaps and tough choices. The Empire State's foundations are shakier than they appear. Pennsylvania's industrial past is fading, leaving behind aging infrastructure and a shrinking, older population. Young people leave for better opportunities, weakening the tax base. Infrastructure needs billions in repairs the state can't afford. In a recession, revenues would fall while demand for services rises. Lack of investment would hinder recovery, accelerating decline. Pennsylvania risks a downward spiral of deteriorating services and quality of life. West Virginia's decline of coal has led to chronic unemployment and the nation's worst population loss. An aging, shrinking population strains basic services. The opioid crisis has devastated communities and overwhelmed healthcare. With little economic diversity, a crash would collapse state revenues. Federal aid is a lifeline, but in a national crisis, even that could falter. West Virginia is dangerously close to the breaking point. Alaska's economy depends almost entirely on oil. When oil prices fall, the state's budget collapses. Recent years have seen deep cuts to services and infrastructure. High living costs and geographic isolation make diversification difficult. In a global crash, oil revenues would vanish overnight. The government would face impossible choices: drain savings or cut essential services. Alaska's isolation could become its greatest liability. Illinois, New Jersey, California, Connecticut, Kentucky, Louisiana, New York, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Alaska. Each stands on precarious ground. Their struggles highlight the dangers of debt, over-reliance on single industries, and poor fiscal management. An economic crash would trigger a cascade of failures, with these states first to feel the impact. Their vulnerabilities are a warning for us all. Responsible fiscal management and economic diversification are crucial. Understanding these risks helps us push for smarter policies and a more resilient future. Stay informed and prepared. Thanks for watching.